Greetings, everybody. I am Lobo, and welcome to Luna. This is episode 199 of my Minecraft survival series, and since our last world tour, I've made an effort to get some projects finished before our coming world tour. So last episode, we finished up Ender Island over here. Prior to that, we finished up Charlotte's Well. Prior to that, we finished up Enchantry Island, or almost finished it up. There might be an addition to this that we add in the future. I have to talk that over with the book lady. But prior to that, we finished up Wharf, and we did a lot of work over at the Approach. That's not quite done yet. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in today's episode. But let's go ahead and make our way over here to this area, which should have been finished up a long time ago, but it was not. The entrance to Wolfins Laboratories over here in Luna. Now, this basically consists of the showroom, and that's it. It's a very small area, and all that needed to be done was the landscaping, but for some reason, that has not been finished yet. I'm not going to say who was being lazy in this single-player world, but somebody was clearly being lazy. Anyway, that's not the only reason we're over here. If you look over my shoulder, you'll notice that in the quarantine district, somebody's home, Wilfred Wolfins Sr. We're actually going to pay him a little visit later. So first things first, before we can get around to the landscaping, I need to go ahead and police the area, kind of pick up after myself, because I've left a lot of randomness around here, around Luna, throughout the past few years. One thing I know that's going to be a little bit more difficult to remove is this thing right here. Basically, this is the overflow from our cactus farms over there, and this was intended to be part of a project that I never actually got around to, but what I'm thinking is we could put a prototype for this project inside the showroom over here, because we do have room for it, and the reason why this is going to be a prototype is because the cactus farms don't produce enough cacti to do what I really want to do with the big project. Anyway, I'm thinking we could reroute our cactus up through here through an item elevator and then take that cactus up to the second floor. And this is where we could actually build that prototype because, as I recall, we have plenty of unused space in here. Actually, forget about what I told you as far as how we were going to place our item elevators in the last clip, because that back room is not this room right here. That back room is actually this room beneath the balcony, which doesn't give us access to the second floor. Instead, what we're going to do is route our item elevator up through this corner right here because, well, it's just the perfect spot for it. Actually, you know what? Forget about what I told you guys in that last clip as well. This is becoming a habit. I'm not doing this on purpose, I promise. But forget about what I told you guys in the last clip because we're not going to be building this project over here because, well, there's just not a lot of space. Instead, we're going to build it on down this way, and basically, let me go ahead and explain what the project is. We're going to be building an XP bank. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our unused excess cacti produced by this farm. We're going to throw that into a furnace, smelt it up, and the cactus will then create XP basically, which is then stored by the furnace, which we can withdraw in case of emergency. And I think this area over here is probably going to be a better spot to build it because we have much more room over here than we did over there, right? So we can probably fit in maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4? Possibly XP little ATM machines. All right, guys, hold on to your seats because I've done a little bit of math here. So if my calculations are correct, and fair warning, they may not be, we can figure out how much cacti we need to smelt to fully repair some netherite tools, some enchanted netherite tools, okay? So we know a netherite pick has 2,031 durability points, all right? And as far as mending goes, mending gives us 2 durability points per 1 experience point, which means we would need 1,015 and a half experience points for 1 full repair of a netherite pickaxe, okay? And then as far as cactus goes, cactus gives us 0.2 XP per item smelted, which means we would need to smelt up 5,077 and a half cactus to get 1 full repair of a netherite pickaxe, which equals about 80 stacks of cactus that we need to get through the furnace. Now, our cactus farms, they can produce that. It'll take a while, but they can produce that. And I figure since we have 3 cactus towers, it might make sense to have 3 cacti ATM machines, 3 cacti XP storage banks over here. And if we look at the output for each of these storage banks, we're going to use a double chest, which is 6 rows and 9 columns, which gives us 54 items that we could fit in this chest, 54 stacks of items we could fit in this chest, plus a hopper behind it, which is 5, so 59, plus the furnace itself, which makes it even 60, okay? So 3/4 of a repair is basically what we're going to be storing up in each of these storage banks. And I think that might be sufficient, because I don't let my tools get all the way broken, because then they would be all the way broken. But once I get down to about a quarter durability in each of these netherite tools, I start getting a little paranoid anyway. So maybe this will just be used to emergency repair those in case we ever need to. It's not going to take the place of our normal mending. I'm still going to stick to villager trading for our normal mending, because, that offers us added resources, added benefits and stuff like that. But I figure, in case we tear down any mountains, I run out of picks or shovels or anything like that, this might be a good option, for that kind of thing. So I think a little setup like this should do the trick. Very simple. Basically, what's going to happen is our cacti are going to flow up through an item elevator right here, then flow across into each of these hoppers located above each of these furnaces, where they will be smelted up using the fuel that's going to be located in these barrels off to the sides here. The finished product of our smelting will then fill up these double chests, fill up the hopper, fill up the furnace, and then once the furnace has, a stack of items in it, we can then withdraw that if we need to and get the XP to actually mend up our gear. So I think now at this point we can go ahead and start rerouting our cactus. So instead of going up to the surface where we were actually supposed to be working today before I got sidetracked, it's going to go over this way instead, kind of follow this ice path, hook around the corner here, and then go up into a new item elevator right here where I showed you earlier. Now, the reason why I have it kind of hooking around in this J turn right here is so that way the cactus basically hugs this back wall over here. The reason why I wanted to hug this back wall is you'll notice, you'll notice we have a hopper right here. If the cacti is hugging this back wall, it won't get stuck on the hopper, basically. I have no idea what hit me. So let's just go ahead and finish up the reroute, finish up the item transportation and stuff like that. We can actually see if this is working because we already have that cactus over there. The first cactus that's going to be going through our system produced by our farm. And I think that should do the trick as far as the water streams go. Rounds the corner up into the item elevator. It's all good there. Now I just need to go ahead and cover this up just to make sure any non-smeltable items don't find their way into this water stream. So at this point, we do have some cactus coming into the system, but as of right now, I have a little placeholder in here, so we're not currently smelting up anything because we need to figure out our fuel source. Basically, we're not going to be using kelp blocks because those can smelt up to 20 items at a time, and we're going to have one cactus coming through here every so often, so we need something that's going to be a fairly inefficient fuel source, like not coal, nothing like that. We need something that burns fairly quickly. And I think this should do the trick, like not the bamboo itself, but if we were to take the bamboo and then convert the bamboo into sticks, I think that would do the trick. And yeah, we could use the bamboo as a fuel source, and as a fuel source, bamboo, it takes 4 bamboo to smelt up 1 item, which is fine. But if we were to convert these into sticks instead, then we could smelt up 1 item using 2 sticks, which means we would be able to double the amount of fuel we would be able to keep in our storage barrels, right? So I think that's what we're going to end up rolling with. Now, I will eventually need to farm this stuff to actually get the required fuel to keep the furnaces fueled up and all that. And that'll happen eventually. We'll set up a bamboo farm, and I'll even throw in some extra sticks from, like the trees and stuff we cut down. But I mean, overall, I think this is probably our best option. But there it is, operational, fueled up, and obviously we can't test this thing out now, but I'm thinking this should be ready to go by the time we tear down another big mountain, so hopefully we'll be able to test it out then. But what I'm thinking is right now, before we leave this project alone, I'm going to need some kind of item disposal system built in here. That way, in the unlikely event this does get filled up and backed up, we don't have items kind of, stacking up anywhere in the world. And that's pretty easy. We'll just use a cactus to destroy the excess cactus, and that'll be that. Now, we do need to kind of dress up the inside of this room so that way it looks more like an interior of a building rather than some kind of, backstage area. So let me go ahead and take care of that real quick. It's not going to be anything special, we're just going to get some walls up. And that should be it. Yeah, I feel good about that. So, I mean, as I said, there's nothing special going on with this room. We just wanted to have this be like kind of a little demonstration area for this prototype of a Wolfins Laboratory project, kind of built in the same style as the rest of the Wolfins Laboratory showroom that this build is housed within. Now, I didn't do this side. Like, we're going to kind of leave this side alone until we figure out what project, what demonstration of what prototype is going to go here. Same thing applies to all the other unused areas inside this building. We will add more eventually, but today, we're just focusing on this area, this specific project right here, which is good. I mean, aside from the fuel situation, I will have to fuel these up more, figure out a more reliable way to get sticks, but aside from that, we're good. And I never told you guys the name of this this particular contraption. This is the R.E.A.P.E.R prototype. Now, I've mentioned the R.E.A.P.E.R before. I've talked about this as a forthcoming project. What R.E.A.P.E.R stands for, obviously it's an acronym. What it stands for is, hold on. There's a sign around here somewhere explaining what all those letters mean. I just had to figure out which part of the quarantine district I intended for this system to be housed within. And I think we got it. Okay, so R.E.A.P.E.R, renewable energy, augmented performance enhancing research. So the renewable energy, referencing the bamboo farm that we're going to be making, augmented performance enhancing research, the XP and, mending and all that stuff. But now we can go ahead and finally clear this out of the way and, get back to what we were originally intending to do with today's episode. And that, of course, is the landscaping for this area. Now, you'll notice I've already started popping out jack-o'-lanterns because I imagine that aside from the building itself, Wolfins Laboratories is a pretty dark place, and I don't want the landscaping to be, bright and welcoming or anything like that. I also don't want the landscaping to be really landscaping at all. Like, you'll notice we have like trees and foliage everywhere else that we've done landscaping. I don't want that for Wolfins Laboratory. I don't imagine they're big on lawn maintenance. So basically what I want to do is pretty much pave over everything. We're probably going to end up using slabs for that since we're not using light sources because we also don't want mobs out here. And speaking of mobs, I probably should have waited to take out the jack-o'-lanterns until we were ready to work on certain areas, because now we have all these holes in the ground, and we also have spawnable areas, which is not safe for the villagers roaming around this district. So we'll just go ahead and throw some torches down as a precautionary measure, which is also good for me because I don't like getting attacked during time lapses. But really, we just don't want this guy's day off to get ruined because he came all the way out here from the farm district to enjoy his day off, to kind of explore the city, right? Anyway, I think now we are good to go. Now, I was going to suggest that we call Watchdog out here for old time's sake, but he actually told me he was busy, which I guess is understandable. He's been gone for a while. He's got some unfinished business to take care of. So instead, how about we just call DD on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. This area is finally finished. After way too long, this area is finally finished. There's not a whole lot to it. I mean, aside from this, like the broken pavement over here caused by the netherworm, because remember, the netherworm's mouth is located just beneath the ground right here, and the netherworm kind of extends on this way and is kind of eating away at the surface, kind of crumbling the pavement, which I think is a neat effect. We might carry that kind of, corrupted, like, it's eating away at the surface feel to other areas where the netherworm is, like, burrowed underground in Luna. But right now we're just, as I said, focusing on this area, and this area is finally done after way too long. I don't know why it took me this long to get this area done, but it's done now, and that's what counts. Now, before we move on to the next project I wanted to tackle in this video, I think we're going to go ahead and make our way into the quarantine district to have a little discussion with that guy right there, Wilfred Wolfins Sr., figure out what his involvement is with the old ones, why they were at Ender Island last episode, and just basically what they're up to, you know, because we have, wait a second, is that Watchdog up there? What business could Watchdog have in the quarantine district? He told me he was busy. What is he up to? All right, we got some questions that need answering. Now, since I've sealed up my alternate entrance into the quarantine district, I'm hoping that my ID badge still works because once we get beyond this point right here, an ID badge is required. Otherwise, Cerberus might have something to say about it. So, I guess we'll go ahead and see if this is working. Is this taking longer than usual? I don't like this. No, okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we still have access to Wolfins Labs quarantine district. Or we would if I get past the wet floor sign, my biggest weakness. All right, so we need to discuss some stuff with Wilfred Wolfins Sr., specifically about his involvement with the old ones, and we saw him with who were potentially the old ones in the last episode. If he's here, then wouldn't it make sense that they would be here too somewhere? That's something we're going to need to ask him about. That's the question that needs to be answered. Then we'll talk to Watchdog and figure out what he's up to over here as well. Oh, but okay, this is his office. Do we knock or do we just barge right in? I mean, given everything he does, I think some barging is deserved, right? Okay. Wilfred Wolfins Sr., you and I have some business to discuss? What in the Watchdog? Wait a second. Hey, Watchdog, he's a robot. This dude's a decoy robot. Okay, has he always been a robot? That's something I may have to ask Wolfred about. If his father's always been a robot. No, no, it's a decoy. Of course it's a distraction. Oh. Of course he is. Watchdog, I don't know how you knew about this or even if you knew about this, but I'm going to assume you knew about this and you weren't just trying to blow up Wolfred's father before we got answers from him, okay? Now, given the fact that he's a robot and an inoperable robot, that does mean Wolfins Labs is without leadership. Now, given the hierarchy of this place, what we know about it, next in line to run the business would be Wolfred, right? Because I'm going to assume that if Wolfred Sr. has this guy just milling about standing in for him, he wasn't planning on coming back anytime soon. So since Wolfins Labs is in need of a new CEO, oh, look at that. First try. Good painting. Excellent painting. Look at that. Anyway, since Wolfins Labs is in need of a new CEO, I've taken the liberty of redecorating the office here a little bit, so that way we can welcome Wilfred Wolfins Jr. into the mix because he is taking over as the head of Wolfins Laboratory. And look at this. We don't even need to change the sign. We don't even need to change the sign to Wilfred Wolfins Jr. because the sign just says Wilfred Wolfins. Oh, man. Excellent. So hopefully this is the start of a new era, a new partnership between Luna and Wolfins Labs, and I'm really looking forward to it. Watchdog's taken the Decoy Senior over to the Law Nether Outpost. He's going to fill Wolfred in on the situation, let Wolfred have a look at the decoy robot. But yeah, while that's all happening, you know, elsewhere, we've got some other business that we need to take care of. Now, at the start of this episode, I mentioned, you know, various places I wanted to get finished up before the next world tour, right? Which is, of course, next episode. One of the places I mentioned we were close to finishing was the approach. Now, we're not going to get the approach done in this episode, but we're going to add a major addition to it, filling in one of the major blank sections of the approach that really kind of stands out to me and makes this place look a little bit awkward. And of course, I'm talking about this area right over here. Now, as far as what I want to build here, this is going to be a build that is related to the Explorer's Lodge right here. And if we think about how these intrepid explorers would find their way into Luna, there's multiple ways that they could arrive. Firstly, they could arrive by land, right? They could arrive on foot or on horseback using this path right here, which will eventually wrap around this hillside and meet with other paths outside of Luna. They could also arrive by sea. Well, they will be able to eventually, you know, once we actually deepen the waters enough for boats to pass through here. Another way they could arrive is by air, and that's what we're going to focus on today. how they would arrive by air, their mode of air transportation. What I'm thinking is that we're going to be building an airship over here. Or at least attempting to. I'm gonna say attempt to. I'm gonna attempt to build an airship over here. Now I want to try my hand at one of those fantasy or like kind of steampunk balloon airships. I'm going to use the quartz to make the balloon because I want access to stairs and slabs and stuff like that. Now I do have quartz that we got from villager trading, but a lot of those are quartz pillar blocks. That's what most of my masons trade in. So I'm hoping that I have enough regular quartz to make this happen. I don't need these. I don't need these quite yet, because I need to room my inventory. So let's see what we've got. I'm not sure how big this is going to be, but we'll probably supplement with the quartz pillar blocks for like the full blocks and stuff like that, which could end up giving this a more patchwork appearance. Little failure to launch there, excuse me. So supplementing with the quartz pillar blocks could give us a more patchwork appearance, which I think could actually work to the benefit of this build, and I'm not opposed to that. And this build is going to be fun. It's going to be fun, but I still don't know how I'm going to approach it quite yet. So this is not going to be one of the ones where I kind of talk you through the building process without contradicting myself. So I think we're going to tackle this mostly in time-lapse form. And I think at this point, I am just about ready to go. So how about we call DD on over here, put on a little bit of music, and attempt to get a little something built here. Welcome back, everybody. The airship is finished, and man, is it visible. Like, you can pretty much see this thing from anywhere we go to in the approach. It's not only is it big, like it is big, but not only is it big, it stands out because it's much different than the other builds around here, which could possibly be a good thing. Maybe I have a little bit more failure to launch there. There we go. But even with that addition, the approach is not yet done. Like, this just takes care of one of the big blank spaces I had over here that was really bugging me. So I'm glad we got that taken care of. Now, before we check out the airship itself, I really just want to take a look at it from other places around Luna and just see how visible this thing actually is. So if we're looking that way from the business district, oh yeah, we got a clear view of it. It's the tallest build in the approach so far, which could mean that I probably should have taken a little bit more time with this, kind of plan some stuff out a little bit more rather than just tacking it on at the end of an episode. But I really just wanted to get this area kind of wrapped up prior to the World Tour. And like, even if I would have taken more time with this, and let me tell you that I did actually take a fair amount of time with this because it took a lot longer than I expected it to, but I guess that was to be expected since this is my first real attempt at building something like this. So I guess I should have expected the expected. I'm not sure how that works. But even if I had given this more time, I'm not sure that I would have done anything different because overall, I like the way that this turned out. And I attribute that mostly to the fact that I was looking at a lot of pictures for inspiration and kind of, like, oh, I like that. Let me do something like that, But I mean, this is it. We got the propeller right here, which offers propulsion. A little rudder right there for, steering. Stabilizer fin, so that way we don't run off course. We got this thing anchored to the ground right here, so that way it doesn't float away as the passengers are trying to board. And this is where the passengers would actually board. They would just make their way up through this retractable ramp right here. And as you can see, we got mechanisms which pull this up into the ship. That way we don't have this thing protruding from the bottom, and when we're underway, we don't have a big hole at the bottom of the ship for people to fall out of. We have the deck right here. We got the passenger area. We've got the bridge up there, which is enclosed, so that way, when we're underway, we don't have the wind buffeting the captain and the crew as they're trying to get us to our destinations. We got the balloon right here, and oh man, this was a lot of work. Moving on into the passenger area, you can see the name of the ship. This is the Rover, which was actually a viewer suggestion for a previous ship that I thought was really clever, like a dog reference and a moon reference. Anyway, we got the passenger area right here, room for 8. We have the bridge right here, room for 4 crew members, plus the captain who would sit right here and take us to our destination. Man, I enjoyed this. This was, you know what? I built this thing. I deserve to play around with it. Let me see what these contraptions do right here. Oh no, no. Okay, I'm not qualified. I am not qualified for that. But I think that puts us in a pretty good spot for the World Tour. Basically, this episode, I really just wanted to fill in some of these blank spaces and kind of get some areas fleshed out a little bit more. So now I feel much, much better about the approach without that big blank spot kind of, sitting atop the Explorer's Lodge over there. We've done a lot. We've done a lot since the last World Tour, so I'm pretty happy with it. This episode, of course, we got the Reaper prototype in. We've also got the quote-unquote landscaping done over here surrounding the Wolfins Laboratory showroom. Yeah, I think we're ready. But I think that is going to do it for us today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to hit that little thumbs up button. That would mean a whole lot to me. And if you want to see more, please remember to subscribe. But as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I am Lobo, and I will see you guys later.